Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Poor Richard's Cafe and Star Local Media. Poor Richard's Cafe, Plano's oldest restaurant since 1973. They are open daily from 5:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., serving the three most important meals of the day: breakfast, lunch, and dessert. It is true Texas home-style cooking made with love and grit. That is Poor Richard's Cafe, located off of Avenue K in Plano. Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor of Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Devin Hassan and Kendrick Johnson. You know, we've obviously got a lot on our plate at this time of year with the baseball and softball playoffs, but over the next few weeks, we have three other state meets, state tournaments, what have you, in the non-standings-based sports. We have state track, we have state tennis, and we have state golf on the horizon. So you know what? What a better time than to preview all three of them. We know what the fields look like. We know who's going to be bound for state. So we're going to talk three different parts. We're going to talk track, talk golf, talk tennis, and let's start on some track and field, guys. We got always a lively turnout as far as Star Local Media student athletes bound for that state meet down in Austin. We can start over in 5A. As far as like actual teams that might have a shot at medaling or at least bringing home some sort of hardware, Kendrick, the McKinney North girls, obviously it helps to qualify all three of your relays, which they did. It helps to have one of the best distance runners in the state, which they have. So talk a bit about the Lady Bulldogs right now and kind of where they're at heading into the state meet. And
you leave it out, my girl, Coach Jessica Richardson, one of the best coaches.
Well, she's not actually competing. She actually,
but she's built the program. She's been two-time Coach of the Year.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, these girls, it's an expectation. Like last year was supposed to have been a rebuilding year, and they finished second in the state. So
it's pretty soft for a rebuilding year.
So that's half the part of the success. But of course, you mentioned London Colbert, 5A, two-time defending 1,600 and 1,300 meter champion. She hasn't had the time she usually has. She's had some personal stuff going on, but at the end of the day, she's undefeated in 3 years of running. And a thing that makes her special, besides her competitiveness and her times, is when the race is close. You saw it firsthand. That last 200 meters, I find somebody after running 2 miles that can run with this.
Yeah,
it's like she has another gear, and she can sprint. Like she's done 800 sprints, and I think she focused on the 800. She probably could go on that. That's how fast she is. She has natural speed, but since people don't have to see it that often, they don't know until it's like I like to say it's like somebody like I know when you were in the area match, you saw the girl was with her. It's like her mind wanted her to catch her, but her body wouldn't let her do it. So she has that ability to do that to her. But fortunately for North, they're not a 180 team. You mentioned the sprint relays. I don't know where they get these kids at each year. Last year they had
they grow them on trees.
2 years ago they had Matabuke. Then last year they had Janiyah Martin. This year they're running with new cast of characters. I'm trying to get my names in my head.
Brooke Givens is one that qualified for state.
She qualified in 200. She's this year's Janiyah Martin, and she's an anchor on those relay teams, which is going to be very, very pivotal. I don't want to leave out Daniel Nicholson, Nikayla Burdon, and Kennedy Russell. They also contribute, and they have a very good cohesiveness where if somebody's not up to par that day, somebody can pick them up. That's what you need in the relays, especially when you're running against those beasts there in 5A like the Lancashires of the world.
And if you're just going to make headway as far as just the overall team standings, you have to have multiple relays there. So to have all three there, that's definitely a big plus for North.
And you see them. I haven't seen them run this year, but I know in years past they have a unique ability to be calm under fighting when they're going against stiff competition. See, that's when they're at their best. I don't know if you never noticed that. Like when they want to head up against Lake Ridge when they were in 6A, 5A now 6A, and when they went against Lancashire, some teams fold under that pressure. They do not.
No. North has a history of coming through at the state meet. With London, that's kind of what I'm going to be fascinated just to see, because you mentioned she's gotten a little bit more competition, at least as far as prior to getting to state this year. Colleen Stegman with Frisco Liberty, she and London have been kind of neck and neck this postseason. They've raced each other 4 times, twice at the area meet, twice at regionals. All 4 races were decided by less than a second, which that's not all too common to see another runner push London Culberth like that. And I got to see them running the 3,200 at regionals, and Stegman led London, I want to say, after each of the first 7 laps, maybe 6 of the 7, something like that, but she was in control. And then, like you mentioned, though, London shifts gears though over that final 400, and especially in the home stretch, just to barely pull away.
And another thing too, it's what a lot of people don't realize. She's added this to her game. She's very strategic. Like I'm very sure you've seen them race more than once. They win the same exact race with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that much strategy goes in the long distance when it start covering her.
You're out there running for, the 3,200 for 10 and a half minutes. I mean, that's a lot. There's a lot can go through your head over the course of how to approach a race like that. The one thing will be, though, is that neither London Culberth or Colleen Stegman will come in with the top seed mark in either the 1600 or the 3200, because there are a couple girls in Montgomery down
cross-country powerhouse for years.
I know London. I forget one of them name, but London's beat her twice in cross-country.
Yeah, let's see. So you have the girl in the 3200 that had the top time at regionals across 5A was Allison Wilson, and she ran a 10:37.05, and that was, let's say, about 6-7 seconds faster than what Culberth and Stegman ran. And then in the 1600, you had two girls from Montgomery that had the top 2 times at regionals. It was Wilson had the number 2 time, and then her teammate Helena Rahman, she ran a 4:56.67. So who knows? I mean, it definitely adds another layer to the upcoming state meet. Now, to be fair, though, London does have a history of coming through at state. She PR'd in the 1600 last year, and she PR'd in the 3200 as a freshman. So.
Like you said, that factor being big in state, and the simple fact is she has the ability to seize the moment, and with it being 2 races in one day, a lot of people haven't done that. She's done it last year. In fact, she had one specific, she went for the record in the mile and finished like a couple seconds short, and she just basically wanted to win the 32. So whatever, she'll have a strategy for these girls who haven't been on this stage. I think that's going to be a very significant part to the equation. Because the 2 races in one day, especially there, I think about a lot of them qualified in both. That's going to be a telltale.
It'll be interesting because Montgomery, she didn't have to worry about Montgomery last year. Montgomery was a 6A school last year, so just with them being down at 5A, this is the first time that she'll have gone head-to-head with these Montgomery powerhouses, at least at the state level in 5A. So just another interesting subplot heading into state this week down in Austin. Let's see, Devin. Obviously, Mesquite ISD is never lacking in a strong turnout at the state track meet. I know Potteet's got a pretty lively happening. So just talk a bit about the Pirates and kind of what their state slate looks like.
Yeah, not as big of a contingent as they've had in years past. Vi win in the field events and most of the discus and the shot put. This is going to be her 3rd straight year qualifying for state. The first time she's made it in both events, though. It's going to take it's one of those where it's going to take a personal record, a season, or certainly a season best, if she hopes to make the medal stand. But she finished 4th. She finished just off the medal stand, a year ago. So. Also for Potteet, and I think one of the athletes that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Kendrick Smallwood in the 110 hurdles. He's just a freshman, and he's a kid though that's been getting better and better as the season progressed. I mean, he finished 4th at the area meet. So you kind of look at that and you say, okay, he finishes 4th. He's going to have to beat these. He's got 3 kids that beat him here, plus the other area contenders to take on in regionals. And he runs a personal record, 14.23 seconds, which isn't that far off of what Terry Smith at Frisco Independence ran. He came in with the best qualifying time at 13.98. But 2/10 of a second is still a pretty sizable gap. But the way he's improved all season long, I wouldn't shock me at all if he ran another personal best, and that's gonna, if he does that, it's gonna put him right there in contention to make the medal stand. And then one other at the 5A level athlete I'm watching is Kayla Ford over at West Mesquite. She comes in with the 3rd best qualifying time in the 400, just less than a second off of the top time, so she's got an excellent chance to make the medal stand.
Yeah, I just made just some random list between 5A and 6A of just some different athletes to watch heading into the state track meet. You did mention Terry Smith, and that's obviously a name out of Frisco ISD to keep an eye on, the hurdler from Independence. He won state in the 300 hurdles last year. He's only been doing the 110s though this postseason, and he's been dominating. Like you said, he comes in with he ran a 13.98 at regionals. He was the only runner across 5A to get a sub 14 second, I should say, time in the 110s. He'll be on that short list of athletes from our coverage area that could make a legit push towards a gold medal. And then you have, the Iron Woman of Class 5A, Nissi Kabongo of Frisco Liberty. She qualified in 3 events, which at the 5A level, that is no small feat. She's going to be competing in the 800, the 300 hurdles, and the high jump. She had really high seed marks in all 3 of them, so she could be coming back home with multiple pieces of hardware. And then can't leave out the Colony's Miles Price. Obviously, we're all familiar familiar with him for his exploits on the football field. One of the most dynamic receivers, running backs. He was actually our all-area MVP, if I recall. And wouldn't you know it, he's also a pretty dang good long jumper too. He had a PR at regionals of 24.3 1/4, number 2 seed mark in 5A, and he'll be making a run towards a possible medal at state later on this week. And then let's see, we can touch on some action in 6A because there's a lot of kids in 6A that could turn some heads. Kendrick, what is it with McKinney Boyd and just their ability just to field these awesome mid-distance runners? It feels like every year they're solid in the 400, and sure enough, the 4x4 relays could be one of them. I mean, they could come back with a medal this week.
Yeah, they said they won. They beat Houston Eisenhower. Well, I think they're Audi Eisenhower, and they said that they're like number 3 in the state. They beat them by 6 seconds in the regionals. So they got legit speed, led by, I want to say butcher her name, Kalea Ali, who also won the 400 meters.
Yep. So pulling double duty.
So she's somebody to look out for, and she follows the trend of the 2 girls at Baylor. I didn't see them run.
Oh, the Miller sisters.
Miller sisters. Yeah. So like you said, they find that knack.
Leah and Alyssa, yeah.
And in this region, because you've seen the regionals, this is not a shabby region by any means. I wouldn't say it's faster than it usually is this year. It's going to be somebody that's running a legit time. You can run a team could have I won't say a PR or whatever, but have their fastest time as a group and still not medal.
Because it's a different landscape, because for a lot of like the McKinney Boyds and the Plano ISDs, they competed in Region 1 last year, where that region's probably a bit stronger in the distance events, whereas for the sprints, Region 2, between what you saw with some of those Klein schools and the Houston area, I mean, they got some
people that can go.
Yeah. Let's see, we just mentioned, those distance events, and Flower Mountain's got a couple, Flower Mountain's always strong in the distance races, it feels like. And
Louisville, too, the Louisville ISDs in general.
So you have like freshman Natalie Cook with Flower Mound, she ran the second fastest 3,200 time at a regional. She's going to be, I believe, competing in both the 3,200 and the 1,600. She'll be in action, plus senior Alex Mayer. He was one of only 2 runners to post a sub 9:10 time in the 3,200 at regionals. Those 2 should be on the radar as far as potential medalists in that region of the Metroplex. Plano East has been a nice little resurgence for the Plano East track program this year. They've got 3 total qualifiers, 2 on the boys' side, plus a relay on the girls' side. Tyler Owens, we've talked about him in the past, another player who's, his A sport is football, but he's a pretty solid sprinter too. One of the fastest kids in Texas. He's been tearing it up in the 100 all year long. He won it at regionals, ran at 10:35. He's gotten under 10:30 before, so obviously still a little room of improvement.
But against the kid from Houston.
Well, he's going to be, and that's why the 100 meter dash in any track event is kind of the glamour race of the entire thing, just because it legit is the title of the fastest man in the state, more or less, and it's taking on even more notoriety this year because, like you mentioned, there's a kid. It's so weird looking at that run sheet and seeing a sub 10-second time in the 100 meter dash,
and he made it look easy.
Here's his nickname. They said this on ESPN. They call him White Lightning.
Yeah, Matthew Bowling out of Houston Strake Jesuit is the on paper favorite heading into this race. One of the great sprinters to ever pass through the state. What was that? The fastest was the
actually
he ran a 9.98.
Non-wind aided.
And that is
it was wind aided, but that's the fastest.
It was under
clocked timed
in high school
for
history.
High school,
yes. Oh, it was wind aided. I thought it was under the limit.
No, yeah. So I mean, Matthew Bowling is he's going to kind of be a lot of people in attendance just to see that kid race. So Tyler Owens will have to. There's got to be a mental equation that comes into that too, with all of the attention focused on that one race because of one kid. Just being able to psych yourself up, being able to handle that mentally. And Owens he's got I want to say his seed time was 4th. I want to say from regionals, but he's, like I said, he's run a 10.29, so he can get up there into that medal reach if he shaves off. As far as talking to him, you talk about, like we were mentioning the 1,600 and the 3,200, how you can approach a race like that, so differently from event to event. I think it's even tougher to do it for a race like the 100, where you're just out there for 10 seconds essentially.
But what do you think of the mentality? Is like you see that guy from Straight Jesuit posted sub 10. It's like you need your personal best just to compete.
Oh yeah,
just to compete.
It is the London Culbreth syndrome right there. Where your PR that just might be another day in the office for Matthew Bowling. But nevertheless, Tyler Owens, one of several area athletes who could conceivably come away with a medal. Same for Jalen Anderson, who is another standout from the Plano East football team. If you've ever seen him, his exploits at receiver, one of the best jump ball pass catchers in the.
I saw them against Plano East, but they played McKinney. is the best catch I've seen at MIT Stadium. Shout out to him. One-handed catch. Guy can go.
It's so the high jump this year, and I just like to always compare, like, what was it like? What was your time, like, or your distance? What would it have stacked up last year? Last year at State in 6A, the winning high jump was 6'10". Only one guy cleared it. This year, of the 9 qualifiers, 5 of them cleared 5. Got up to 6'10" at regionals.
Wow.
So that's Jalen Anderson. He's part of a very, very, very crowded field of guys who could vie for a state championship this week. I mean, just to clear 6'10", that seems
insane.
God, I'm just like looking up and like, I mean, you're essentially clearing the equivalent of like an NBA power forward at that point. That is nuts. But no, I mean, you've seen Jalen Anderson on the football field. You know he's a freak athlete and one of the best jumpers out there. So to see that success translate to the track is no surprise. But it's going to be tough because lots of PRs accrued at regionals across that sled, I'm guessing. And then you've got the Plano East girls 4x200 relay, which I was down in Waco for regionals. This race was a true photo finish between Allen, Plano East, and Mesquite.
Yeah.
We're 0.04 of a second separated first from third place. The order of finish was Plano East, Allen, and Mesquite. Obviously, all 3 are going to qualify.
Who got the alternate? Yeah.
When they're that close. Or was it Mesquite or was it Horn?
It was Mesquite.
Okay. And then all 3 qualified, and all 3 should very well be in the mix for a medal this week. Obviously, plenty still though on the Mesquite side of things. I know Caleb Boger's going to be pretty busy out there. Just talk a bit about the Skeeters and the Jaguars.
Yeah, it's my area has produced a lot of great sprinters in recent years, and not just sprinters that made it to state. These are sprinters that competed and won medals. Don't have quite the prohibitive favorite like you did last year with the Kaylor Harris and whatnot, but there's certainly contenders and athletes that are certainly capable of making the medal stand. You mentioned Caleb Boger. He's one of those. He had one of the fastest times in the state in the 100 over the course of the season, and then ran, he didn't qualify in that race. I don't know if it was a slip or a slow start or what, but he ran 0.3 of a second off of his season best, which was just kind of off for him. But to his credit, he bounced back to qualify in the 200. He's also part of that 4x200 along with Kavin Roberts, Robert Davis, and Keneal Cooper. They're within a second of the top qualifying time. So Caleb has a chance to medal in a couple sports. Latasia Jackson for Horn. She's a past gold medalist in the relays, but she's going to be flying solo this year. She's got a chance in both the 200 and the 400. And that Mesquite girls 4x200 in the race that you just mentioned, coming in, I'm going to try with this name, Inilua, Subaru, Cassandra Njoku, Amaya Brown, and Jennifer Godfrey. 3 of those girls made it to Austin last year. So they have experience. Okay. And I think they can kind of call on that experience. They were right there at regionals. I think they're very capable of making the medal stand. I don't know if anybody can catch DeSoto, who I believe has the fastest time in the nation, and they're about 2 seconds faster than the second best qualifying time coming into this race. But in a relay, I mean, how many times have you seen it at the Olympics over the years? The U.S. is the unquestioned favorite, and they dropped the baton. So anything can happen in a relay, but. And then a couple of events that my area is not necessarily known for. Jacoby Jones qualified in the pole vault. And I have my GISD folk looking into it if he's the first Garland ISD athlete to ever qualify in the pole vault. And not only did he qualify, he cleared 16 feet, which ties him for second in terms of marks coming in. And the I guess the quote unquote favorite cleared 16.3. So not only is Jacoby Jones heading to Austin maybe for the first GISD athlete ever, he's got a great chance to win a medal. Wow. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, and then the Rowlett 4x400 relay, Jared Wesley, Lance Canyon, Jerry Evans, and Brody Sismic, 3:13.78 puts them among the top qualifying times. DeSoto again with the best time, but they're within a second. So this is a Rowlett team that's run against strong competition all season long. The coach told me, at the beginning of the season that, hey, keep an eye on our 4x4 because they're going to Austin and they're going to win a medal. So they certainly put themselves in position to do so.
He was calling a shot early on.
He did.
I've seen them play football, so if they find something with pads and helmets on, I don't even want to see them on the track. Jerry Evans is the real deal.
And then one more name just to keep an eye on, at least heading into the 6A portion of the state meet, Prosper freshman Aubrey O'Connell watch out for her in the 1600. She won the district meet. She was second in the area to, I believe, Ashlyn Hilliard of Plano. But then she just dominates at regionals, and she runs a 4:54.17. That was the top regional time overall in 5A and 6A. At regionals, and just something about just young distance runners breaking in and really just kind of I don't know what we attribute it to, but you have, like I said, mentioned Natalie Cook, a freshman over at Fireman. You had London Culbreth, Colleen Stegman, these runners that break into these distance races at an early age and immediately take to it and just begin dominating from the word go. I'm not really sure what to attribute it to. Might be a nice story idea now that I think of it.
Right.
But nevertheless, just a few of the athletes on the Star Local Media radar heading into the state track meet this weekend. Always a lively occasion down in Austin for our schools. Still got a couple other sports on the radar, including some tennis and some golf. Not entirely sure which one we'll do next, but nevertheless, one of those sports is coming up soon. We're going to do a line change, and we'll pick things up in just a moment. Today's podcast is brought to you by Star Local Media. 14 newspapers and websites with a print distribution of 270,000 homes and monthly page views of 600,000 online. Star Local Media, your community voice for news. And now, let's get back to the podcast.
All right, I'm here at Liberty High School with Nissi Kabongo, who's headed back to state for the fourth time in her high school career. Nissi, this is just another walk in the park for you, huh?
Yep, just another walk in the park.
So what's this feeling like, your big senior year, and you're going in 3 events? I'll ask you about that here in a second. But what's it like to be headed back to state for your 4th and final year here at Liberty?
Well, it feels good because honestly, it's just like I worked so hard to get up to this point. So now it's kind of like an expectation for me to make it because I've gone every single year. So it's kind of something I expected of myself already.
So how do you keep that motivation? You know, when you go as a freshman, you go as a sophomore, and you're going every year at such a young age. How do you stay motivated going into your senior year?
Well, as the years progress, you start to get a little bit more comfortable with being in that position and competing at that higher level. So it just kind of becomes a part of like who I am as an athlete. And then that work ethic just becomes like instilled into every day of what I do.
Now you have a new event that you're headed to at state. Before it was the 800 meters and the high jump.
Yes, sir.
And I'll ask you about the high jump here in a bit, but you added the 300 hurdles to your repertoire, and you finished first at regionals, and you're headed to state in that. How did you get going into that? What made you decide to, hey, I'm going to really compete at that one and add that to the list as well?
Well, at regionals I finished second.
Second, sorry.
No, you're good. But so I actually competed in heptathlon in the summertime, and that required me to run 100-meter hurdles. And I always knew that I had like the endurance and the stamina. I was like, let me just try 300-meter hurdles and see if it works out. And if it does, it does. And if it doesn't, it does. And it worked out. So
now that's gutsy because there's another girl in Frisco that's her event, and she's really good at that as well. Simone Watkins from Frisco. Now are y'all buddies? Y'all rivals? What's that like competing against her on the track?
It's like friendly rivalry, I guess you can call it, because we're both very cool with each other. We're both friends and it's cordial, so it's nothing. We both support each other, so when one does better than the other, it's just mutual. So
what's that going to be like? Y'all both heading down to state and competing in the same event?
Honestly, I think that we're probably just going to be the same exact energy, but we're both have a goal focused in mind, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good competition.
Now, back in February, you held a brief record of the high jump, at least in the state, of you jumped to 5'10".
Yes, sir.
Last year you jumped to 5'7", which is, you still have the school record here, obviously, here at Liberty. How did you elevate that from a 5'7" to 5'10"? What did you do, going from your junior year to senior year to improve in that department?
Honestly, I feel like, for last season for me personally wasn't the best season I've ever had, so I came into the season more motivated. We hit the weight room more, and honestly, I think it's just time because I grew more as an athlete and just developed more, so I think that played a big part in it. Now,
knowing you have that record right now, the top high jump mark out of any classification, is that a little bit more pressure, or you kind of you have something to prove, or you a lot of confidence, or
it's like it puts you on a high slope, and I think I'm going to ride off of that because it's like, okay, I got this, like I'm already in there in that mindset that I'm physically capable of competing at that level again and again.
Now, if you weren't competing in these track and field events, what sport would you be playing?
Honestly, that's an interesting question. I don't know, because I tried playing basketball. I did not like basketball at all, so I'd probably be in I don't know. interesting question.
What did you play growing up?
I honestly didn't start playing sports until 7th grade, which is kind of weird. Like, I just started doing track when I was in 7th grade, and then I was like, I ended up being good at it, and I found my thing.
What got you into track? What made
Because
you?
I was like, I'm really athletic, but I don't know what to do with myself because I'm not coordinated. I'm not good at dancing, can't do anything else but run. So then I started running, and I was like, I'm kind of fast. So
Track and field was perfect for you.
yeah, it was.
What athletes, professional athletes, do you look up to and why?
I love Lolo Jones and specifically Sydney McLaughlin too, a lot because they are very well-rounded individuals. They're talented. They're both so pretty. Love that about them, and also the fact that they stick to their morals and they're not afraid to like share their beliefs with everybody else.
Now, lastly, earlier this year you signed to SFA,
Yes,
correct? So you're heading there, obviously for track. What are your college goals now that it's approaching here just around the corner?
Well, honestly, heading into college, like August, September, I just want to stay in shape, and then from there, I'm just trusting my coach because I already have a very good relationship with him, and we're kind of like on the same mindset as to what goals we have moving forward.
Now, what would it mean to take some gold medal hardware, ending your senior year headed into
That
college?
would feel so good, like having state medals going into my college season. That would feel really good.
Thanks again to Nissi Kabongo for taking the time to chat with Brian for our Student Athlete Spotlight. And for this, we will shift gears from track to talking some tennis. For this portion of the podcast, we got Justin Thomas and Brian Murphy as we transition from a sport where we had kids in pretty much every single market that we cover to a sport where I think we have 4 high schools represented. So it should be a little bit easier to sift through this in advance of the state tennis tournament, which takes place, I believe, next week down in College Station at Texas A&M. We got kids from a couple from Plano ISD, from Marcus, from Little Elm, some kids that have certainly won't be any stranger to the happenings down at state tennis, including on your end, Brian, Little Elm's own Ali Jeem, once again headed to state.
3rd year in a row, and so
Pretty consistent.
She told me a couple weeks ago when I met with her and Coach Ross, she was like, I really didn't think I was going to make it this year. They in their regional semifinal game, she got blown out of the water. She blew everyone out at the regional tournament up until that point. Lost to a girl from Colleyville Heritage, I believe. I can't remember her name now. And then so they still had to play a 3rd place game, and then in hopes of a playback. But when the tournament was in Lubbock, so they had to do the whole hotel thing and all that stuff. So when her and Coach Roth and the rest of her crew went to the hotel that night, they told me, they're like, yeah, it was a fun run. They were already at peace with it, the fact that she wasn't going to make it to state. And she comes back the next day, blows this girl out of the water, and Coach Ross said, when he saw, Ali dominating, he went over to the other match to see, if the girl they needed to win was going to win, and she won. So then he comes back over to the court, and he just had this big smile on his face, and she saw it, and he told her, and she was ecstatic, and then played the playback match and just dominated the playback. And what do you know? Ali Jeem headed back to state for the 3rd year in a row.
I mean, you should know at this point that she can come through on that stage when pressed. I mean, there's enough precedent. So yeah, I guess what does her draw kind of look like now as she makes her return trip to College Station?
She's got to worry about some Highland Park folks. I believe it's 2 of them. I don't have their names in front of me, but Coach Roth told me it's a pair of Highland Park kids. So
of course it is.
Yeah.
Because when I was looking to see, okay, how many kids do we get out of our markets, and I check Region 2 and 5A, and I started thinking, okay, maybe we got a Frisco kid get there. I mean, Frisco's always got some pretty solid tennis players, and then, they're in the same region as Highland Park, and nobody beats Highland Park in anything regarding tennis. No. I want to say, when I checked the bracket...
It goes back to my days of a high school tennis player.
Do tell.
Highland Park would dominate Southlake in high school.
It's just one of those sports that, the Highland Park is just always good at.
Those country club sports, man.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to say, I think, so at the Region 2 5A tennis tournament, there were 10 possible...
Those indoor facilities they have.
There were 10 possible qualifier spots available at the Region 2 tournament. 5, first, second place across the 5 divisions. I want to say 8 of them were won by Highland Park.
Sounds about right.
So that is outside of like as we make a huge deal about like Allen Wrestling having a stranglehold over its sport. Like if there is anything else like that right now in Texas, it's Highland Park tennis. I mean, it is death taxes in them just running roughshod over over the 5A tennis landscape. It's impressive. So so Allie Jeem, we'll see what she can do, man. Maybe call upon that experience after third time's the charm and whatnot.
One name to watch for in the coming years in the Frisco tennis landscape, Nathan Cern of Lebanon Trail, only a freshman. He finished third in boys doubles, boys singles, I should say. And so he's not going to state, but really promising. For the young freshman there at Lebanon Trail.
Whereas Allie Jean making her third trip to state. The same goes for a couple of kids at Plano West who are bound for state. Caden Mortgat and Emma Jenner, they qualify as mixed doubles. Their first year together, teaming up in mixed doubles. This was it was a team that when when head coach Morgan Walker sent me the draws for the district tournament, you're just looking to see who's paired up with who's playing in what in what brackets, and then you get over to mixed doubles and you see Caden and Emma, and just first thing that pops into mind is like, oh boy, that's a team that can make a run. Plano West taking the number one boys player, its number one girls player, and just throwing them out there together, seeing what happens. And they've beat the brakes off everyone, be it at district, be it at regionals, lots and lots of straight set victories. And the thing is, they're two terrific individual talents, but they mesh very well together as a team, and you kind of got to see them versus another team that was kind of in a similar situation in the regional final at the Region 2 tournament when they play a couple kids from Round Rock Westwood, which won state in the fall. They took their top boys singles player and their top girls singles player, put them together in mixed doubles, threw them out there, and Plano West beat them 6-3 two times out. So just seeing what that chemistry between Mortgat and Jenner really, really humming right now. And plus, those two have a lot of experience at this stage. Like I said at the start of this is each of them making their third straight trip to state. Jenner, she actually won state last year in girls doubles, teaming with Plano West's JoJo Tai. And then the year before, when she was at McKinney Boyd as only a sophomore, she was the state runner-up in girls singles. And with Caden Mortgat, he's been a state semifinalist in boys doubles these past 2 years. So lots and lots of experience. That alone, should pay dividends, you would think. Just looking over the rest of the field, again, you had district champions coming out of Humble Kingwood, South Lake Carroll, Austin Westlake. I know at least just going off those scores, the Kingwood and Westlake teams just rolled through their respective regional fields. But the strength of these regions can vary. Region 2 5A, which Region 2 6A I should say, was at least during the fall that was as loaded a region as there was in the state. So getting out of that region in the spring, it means something, to survive that. So we'll see what Mortgat and Jenner can do. On paper, they you can make a case they're the favorites going into this thing. So we'll see what happens. And then you've got a team over at Plano Senior, which had to take a very, very different path to get there. Let's see. Out of the boys doubles, Edward Steen and Herman Aguirre. These guys literally had to scrape and claw to get out of Region 2. They lose in the semifinals to the eventual regional champ out of Vandegrift, and again a good fight. They gave them a good match that went 3 sets. Steen and Aguirre, who are the runners-up in District 9 6A, the district tournament. So, taking a regional champion the distance like that, shows promise. But then they have to turn around and play a third-place match against 2 of their own teammates, Andrew and Benjamin McDonald, who defeated them at the district tournament. And this match, it goes to a third set. They split the first 2 sets 7-6. The McDonald's brothers, though, Benjamin, I want to say it was having to battle through a bit of a back injury that in the third set it was too much. Steen and Aguirre were up 3 games to zip before the McDonald's have to retire due to this back injury to Benjamin. So Edward and Herman advance, and but they make good on that opportunity. They get the playback chance, and then they win in 3 sets against a Cypress Ranch team to punch their first ever ticket to state. So that's kind of a look at what's in store for Plano Senior and Plano West. Steen and Aguirre, they draw a team out of Austin Bowie, the regional champs out of Region 4. Stephen Doe, Riley O'Connor. I'm not going to act like I have any sort of backstory on what those bring to the table, but nevertheless, we'll see. Got to get there first, and they've at least accomplished that much. So nevertheless, yes, teams from Plano and Plano West bound for state. Justin, I could round this out with a look at, Marcus has a kid headed to state?
So you guys have your players that are making multiple return trips. Ryan Mockett from Marcus is making his debut. He's a junior. He's actually the first Marcus player to ever make state in boys singles, so pretty cool little trick there for Ryan.
Wow.
He finished as the runner-up at the Region 1 tournament to Amarillo Tascosa's Avery Zavala. Obviously, so they're on opposite sides of the draw. So, Ryan was pretty motivated. He lost in the first round of the district tournament last year to a player from Southlake that ended up making the regional finals. So he was pretty motivated coming back for his junior year and gets it done. He'll get Garrett Skelly of Conroe the Woodlands. It's a player that he actually played earlier in the year, and he said he was pretty competitive in that match. So he knows a few things, a couple different little strategies he's going to try to use in this second match with Skelly. And just kind of looking at the rest of the bracket, when talking to Ryan, he said he's played every opponent at the state tournament except for one, and the one player he hasn't played actually is kind of the guy he knows the best, kind of on a personal level. So he's plenty familiar with what he's going to be seeing down there. He's ranked 6th in the state, among all classifications. So talking to Ryan, his goal is to get to the semifinals and then see what he can do from there, but he definitely wants to get out of that first round, get to the semifinals, and see if he could work his way onto the podium somehow.
We've still got one more springtime sport to discuss. I'll get out of here because nobody needs to hear me try and talk about golf. We'll do a quick one little line change, bring Taylor Ragland in to helm the last part of the podcast, and talk some state golf in just a bit.
Welcome back to the last section of this preview podcast for some of the individual sports this spring. I've swapped in for Matt Welch here with Justin and Brian. We're going to talk some golf. We're going to hit the links a little bit for the last section of today's podcast. I know Louisville ISD has some schools and some individuals. Plano has some schools and individuals, and McKinney Boyd girls. I know there's Frisco teams as always, and individuals and all that good stuff. So JT, I guess we can start on your end of things. I know you have 2 teams making a couple of first appearances in 6A and a couple of individuals as well.
Yeah, so we have the Flower Mound girls team moving on, and then we have an individual from Hebron moving on in the girls, and then it flips over on the boys where Hebron's boys team qualified and Flower Mound has an individual. So, I guess we can start with the boys. Like you said, first time making it to state in the 6A ranks for Hebron's boys golf team. They're coming in as the Region 1, 6A Region 1 champions. They beat Southlake Carroll by 6 strokes. They put up a team score of 577. So they're playing pretty well under Coach Terry Campbell. It's a pretty deep team. You have Greg So won the district championship, then June Park comes around and comes back and wins the regional championship. So they've had 2 different players win the district and the regional tournaments. Derek Hamilton shot well at regionals. He finished tied for 19th. Christian Cardle tied for 32nd. They actually only recorded 4 scores because they had a disqualification in the first round. So they didn't even get to quote unquote.
They needed everybody.
They didn't get to quote unquote throw out their worst score because it was a DQ, and they still cruised to the championship. So the Hebron boys are playing pretty well. They've gone out to, gone down to Legacy down there in Georgetown, and have gotten to see the course for the state preview earlier and played pretty well. So they seem to be pretty confident heading down there, and obviously in the past, teams that come out of Region 1 have typically fared pretty well down there in Georgetown. So individually, you have Flower Mound's Andrew Zobel. He's a St. Edward's signee. He finished in a tie for 4th at the regional tournament, shot 72 and 69. So he'll be making his first appearance down there at state also.
Yeah.
Just keep rolling with the girls here?
Sure, man.
Okay, so sticking with Flower Mound, their girls finished 2nd at regionals. They were 22 shots behind regional champ Southlake. They shot 618. Pretty veteran team here, obviously making their debut, but they have 3 signees. Lauren Crystal, she's going to UT Tyler. Piper Frisbee's Texas Wesleyan, and Kate Dishman is SFA, so kind of spread around East Texas there a little bit. But I know they're pretty excited. They were right in the hunt for that right there for that regional championship with Southlake after winning the district title, 6A. So pretty confident. And then I wanted to round out talking about Jenny Park from Hebron. Pretty cool story here. She's a TCU signee. So she's the first LISD player to ever make it to the state golf tournament all 4 years. She made it. Yeah. She made it as a freshman, as a member of the team, and she finished 3rd individually and got the bronze medal there. She was only 2 strokes off of first place, or 3 strokes off of first place as a freshman. Qualifies as a sophomore individually, finishes a tie for 15th. Qualifies individually as a junior, finishes 3rd again. So she has 2 medals already.
Right.
So she needed to win a playoff in district to get to regionals. She did that. She gets to regionals. She finishes tied for 1st. Loses the playoff, but finishes.
Doesn't
2nd,
matter.
So still goes anyway. She lost to Trinity King of Arlington Martin, who's also a TCU signee. So there was two TCU players battling it out for the regional title there. But I know Coach Terry Campbell was very excited for Jenny to get to go back 4 years in a row, 4 state, and see if maybe she can improve on those 2 bronze medals and maybe get up to silver or gold this season.
Absolutely. From your teams, it sounds like, I mean, what it takes to succeed in golf every year is definitely a team where everybody's kind of chipping in and everybody's able to pick up a little bit of the slack. McKinney Boyd certainly has that. They had the misfortune of being in a district with Plano West, girls at least this year, which I'll get to in a little bit. But McKinney Boyd girls runner-up, District 9-6A. Really good tournament. I think head coach Denise Hatchell said that it was their best 2-day score ever. They just got beat by Plano West, who, again, I'll get into their dominance here in a minute. And then 3rd place at the regional tournament. So McKinney Boyd making another trip to state. Really just kind of,
made it last year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, an overall team effort for the Lady Broncos because they got, I believe, one score of 75, and then everybody else was either an 81 or an 82.
Wow.
So it doesn't always take, everybody shooting, in the mid 70s to low 70s to get somewhere, as long as you have everybody kind of being consistent and carding scores, and you're able to take 4 scores that are all right around 80, you're going to have a shot. Obviously a deeper field, at state, and a more talented field, and probably will have to step it up a little bit, as evidenced by taking 3rd, just at regionals. But, still another good year for McKinney Boyd. But, as I mentioned, they share a district with a really, really stout Plano West team. They've just absolutely cut a swath through the 6A postseason thus far. District champions, team and individual with Michelle Zhang, regional champions as a team, and a 1-day event. You were talking about Hebron, what they shoot at District 577 or at regionals. Yeah. You're talking about how good that score was, but West at the District 9-6A event, the girls went out and shot 566. So they are unbelievable. They really benefited from Michelle Zhang, who I mentioned, that won district, Ashley Liu and Milena, Barrientos, all moved in before this spring and this season. I believe 2 moved in the fall and 1 in the spring or something like that. And they added to, Ellie Roth and Ali Toyos, who were here before, to make, their group of 5 is really, really good, really stout, and it really doesn't matter who's on or who's off.
566 is low.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter who's on or who's off. They're going to have 4 really good scores. So
you say 556?
566.
Jeez.
Yeah, they won district by, I think it was 29 strokes over McKinney Boyd, something like that. Which, I mean, you shoot that low, it's not surprising. But
I mean, even the 6A Region 1 was only 598.
Yeah.
Wow. What did Boyd shoot? Under 600?
Yeah. I mean, 566 plus 29.
And they didn't even win the district.
Yeah,
that's absurd.
Absolutely. But so the expectation from Plano West has to be that they have the ability to go down the state and win. I mean, if they play their best,
sounds like the favorite.
They play their best round. They play their best, 4 scores. They get contributions, like I said, from those 3 newcomers this season. Man, it's really hard to see how they're not in contention for that team title and maybe an individual title as well. They would be their first team title in history on the girls' side. The boys have done it. The boys have had some individual champions and all that good stuff, but this will be the first for the girls. So definitely the team to watch as far as I'm concerned. But, also some individuals. PISD, Matt Komegas, I think is how you say his name. I'm sorry, for Plano West, was the only boy to make it for Plano West. The boys team did not make it after winning District 9-6A. They were bounced in the regional event. But Matt will make it. I believe he's a freshman, so a pretty good season for him. Going to be a cool experience to go down there and play. And then Megan Winans, Libby Winans, I remember talking to you guys this time last year, swept all the way through the postseason, won state as a senior, now at Oklahoma, and her little sister, a sophomore, is right there, headed to state as well. Then I know there's also Haley Moore, I believe, from Prosper. So some individuals, but the real story from Plano ISD is Plano West, and if they can convert some of that momentum they've built through a dominant postseason to their first ever team championship.
Another team looking for their first ever team championship, a team that's been around for literally 3 years, Lebanon Trail. They blow out the Region 2 5A tournament. They win by 30 strokes. They shoot a 625. Their best players are a junior, a sophomore, and a freshman. And those 3 players all finished in the top 7 individually as well. Olivia Mitchell, she finished number 2. Madison Fung, who's only a sophomore, she finished 5th. And then Ryan Coe, a freshman, has come in here. She's been kind of not say missing link, but just an added asset to an already loaded team. A team that was in 4A last year with just freshmen and sophomores. They finished state runner-up behind Powerhouse Andrews, and now they make this leap to 5A, against the likes of the Highland Parks, all the Frisco teams, Liberty and Centennial are in that mix in the state tournament every year on the girls' side, and Lebanon Trail just comes in and wins the district, wins the region, have three players and finish in the top 7. Also, Gabby Betancourt of Frisco Centennial, she wins individually. She beats Olivia Mitchell by 2 strokes to place first and qualify for state as well. And something interesting about the team. I'm going to go over the boys' side now because Lebanon Trail beat Highland Park by 30 strokes. On the boys' side, the top 2 finishers were both 2 Highland Park teams. Highland Park Blue, Highland Park Gold.
That'll happen.
They shoot a 569 and a 588, but Frisco Wakeland, they finish right behind them, and they qualify for state right there on the boys' side. So you have a state qualifier on the boys with Frisco Wakeland, state qualifier with Lebanon Trail. Lebanon Trail, easily one of the favorites to get the job done if they can, shoot, do what they did at regionals. Maybe best that just by a little bit. They'll be, a front runner to medal for sure at the state tournament without any seniors on the roster, which is pretty scary.
Absolutely. Those tournaments come up, I believe, Monday and Tuesday. The girls, 13th and 14th, I believe, are the dates, and the boys are the following week, the 20th and the 21st. Sounds like all of us could have some teams, some individuals, make some runs at the podium, some medals, maybe some championships. We'll see. Not sure we'll have any podcast devoted to that, but definitely check out starlocalmedia.com. We'll have recaps, results, features if any of our teams, especially if they do well and wind up on the podium, all that good stuff. But that'll do it for this edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast, talking a little individual sports and all that good stuff. So check in with starlocalmedia.com, and we will talk to you soon on the podcast.